So y'all already know that I ain't letting nobody live with me ever, okay? I don't care how long we've been knowing each other. I don't care that our mamas went to high school together. I don't care if you're my cousin, okay? You could be going through the roughest divorce of your life and your house just needs a little work. No, ma'am, okay? No, sir, you can be my family, and my answer is still no. Every single time I say that, somebody want to call me dramatic. Somebody always say, well, Geraldine, not everybody is a bad person. Okay, well, let me introduce you to Frances Zaayer, because I just finished this new Netflix joint, Worst Neighbor Ever. First episode called She Finally Snapped, and baby, by the time I got to the end of this thing, I was standing up in my living room like I was the one who needed the anger management classes. So let me tell you why this case had me all up in my feelings, and then let me tell you why it's not just a true crime story, but it's a whole entire lesson on how this country decides who is dangerous and who is delicate. What's up, everybody? It's your girl Indescribable, aka Geraldine Lake, and I'm back with another true crime deep dive because this is one of them stories that you just gotta hear, okay? Shawna and David Scott, a married couple living their life in a quiet little neighborhood in Mount Sterling, Kentucky. David was a deputy jailer, a coach, a mentor, the kind of man the whole town showed up for. Remember that. Frances was an old family friend, knew them since they were teenagers. She rolls back into town, going through a messy divorce, buys a house right across the street, and asks Shawna, can I stay with y'all while my place gets renovated? And Shawna, being a good person, said, sure, come on in, girl. And that right there, that's the whole PSA. When somebody kind opens the door, that is not a green light for you to move in and start rearranging their furniture or their entire life. Because Frances did not stay a house guest. Frances became a project. First, she get bossy in the house that's not hers, and everything got to be done her way. She's getting upset at Shawna's grandson. She's got a problem with how Shawna cleans. And then she pulls up a YouTube video of herself making these racially charged comments. And Shawna is sitting there watching her husband, a black man, and going, wait a minute. I think this woman might be a little racist. A little? Girl, if you don't put Frances out so she can go to hell. Okay, so anyway, Frances moves out. And you would think, great, problem solved. No, now she across the street with a front row seat to the family that she has decided is her own personal enemy. Now, this is where I need you to understand the level of petty that we are dealing with. Frances built a driveway that crossed over the property line onto land that belonged to Shawna's dad. Just took the man's land like a monopoly piece. And Shawna's father, a whole grown man, had to go out there and flip two of the cars over on the sides to move them. And that's where we at. We flipping cars in the front yard because facts, okay? But then it gets worse. Frances was outside naked in the daytime, cutting the grass, with everything God gave her just blowing in the wind, okay? Mooning the family. And these are people with children. They got nieces, nephews, and grandbabies out here playing in the front yard, and this grown woman is turning her body into a threat. So of course Shawna calls the police, and you know what they told her? That in Kentucky it's not technically against the law for a woman to be topless. So there's nothing they can do. Let that sink in up here. There's nothing that they can do. Hold that thought because it's gonna come back. Now here's where I stopped watching this like entertainment and started watching it like evidence. Frances called the police so many times that when the shooting finally happened, the 911 dispatcher already knew her by name. The person called it in and the dispatcher asked her, is it Frances? And they said, yes, that's who it is. And that's how many times this woman ran to law enforcement over literally nothing. She was on a first name basis with dispatch. Do you understand how much of the taxpayer resources, the officer hours, the jail resources that she personally wasted crying wolf? She reported Shawna for working while on disability. Made up a whole story. When Shawna asked her point blank, why are you doing this? Frances looked her dead in the face and said, because I can. Now, that's not a neighbor. That's a supervillain origin, okay? Because then the two of them get into a little physical scuffle in the front yard. David comes over and breaks it up, and what does Frances do? Runs to the police again and says that Shawna attacked her with a stick and beat her up, and David just watched. And then this part. She starts wearing a neck brace with no injuries, okay? The police looked at her and could not find a single mark on this woman, not one, but she in a cast like she just came off a stretcher. Now, y'all know what that is, okay? You know exactly what that is. That is the performance. That's the costume. That is a grown white woman who figured out real early that if she just looks injured enough, if she cries the right way, if she puts on the neck brace, the system will bend toward her. And it did. Shawna, the person who did not attack anybody, ended up arrested, told to stay 500 meters away from her own neighbor. Frances antagonized her husband David out there by the truck in his own driveway, in his own life, and still, somehow Shawna is the only one getting handcuffed. When the case against Shawna eventually fell apart, when the system did not punish this family the way Frances wanted it to, that's when this woman decided that she was going to be the FBI, the judge, and the jury all by herself. She even started telling people that she was going to get President Orangeface involved in her neighbor dispute. Like he don't have a country to poorly run. But anyway, on May 26, 2018, the security camera the Scotts had put up out of fear caught Frances walk across that street, reach into the back of her pants, pull out a gun, and barge into their home. She shot Shawna in the face. One bullet broke every bone in this woman's face. She lost the sight in one eye and lost the hearing in one ear. She had to have 16 surgeries, y'all. 16. And then Frances found David and shot him in the chest, in the heart. He died right there. 47 years old. And the saddest part, Shawna went into a coma and didn't even find out her husband was dead until she woke up and asked about him. Then Frances walked back to her own house and barricaded herself in like she was the one in danger. Now, I'm going to say something plain for y'all. The wife of the man who died, Shawna, believes this was racially motivated. Now, that's not me reaching. That's not me putting 100 on 10. That is the widow. She watched this woman's behavior. She heard the comments. She buried her black husband, and she said out loud what it was. So now let me ask you the question this whole thing has left me with. What does murder actually cost in America, and does the price change depending on who is holding the receipt? Frances Zaayer, a 51-year-old white woman, planned this. She did not snap in a split second. She had a whole year of harassment, fake neck braces, false police reports, and calculated cruelty. And then she armed herself, crossed the street, and executed a man and tried to execute his wife. Premeditated is not even a strong enough word, and she was allowed to take a plea deal. Plead guilty, 35 years, eligible for parole in 2038. Now hold that up next to Karmelo Anthony. Okay, Karmelo Anthony was 17 years old, a child, at a track meet, and in a chaotic, loud, split-second confrontation, he stabbed Austin Metcalf one time. He said he was defending himself. He took his case all the way to trial like the Constitution says he's allowed to. And a jury that did not have a single black person on it, found him guilty of murder and gave him 35 years. They even rejected the sudden passion option that would have capped it at 20. 35 and 35. Do you see it? Do you get it now? A middle-aged white woman who stalked and premeditated a double shooting got the exact same number as a black teenager who reacted in one terrified second. One got a plea deal and never had to sit in front of a jury of strangers and beg. The other got the full weight of the machine. The national circus, the mostly white jury, and a father who went on a podcast after the verdict and used a racist stereotype to describe the boy who's going to prison for the rest of his youth. And people want to tell me it's not about race? It's always about who we have already decided to fear. Because here's the thread that ties Frances to 1,000 other cases. The neck brace with no injuries, the tears, the I'm the real victim, the running to the police over and over, knowing that they will come running for her and not for you. That fragility is not weakness, it's a tool. It's a woman who understood that the system was built to believe her skin color over your facts. She got an innocent woman arrested with a costume and a story. She wasted police and jail resources like free samples at Costco. And even when the system gave her everything, when it arrested her enemy and dropped the case, it still was not enough, because what she actually wanted was power. And when the manipulation stopped working, she reached for a gun. And she almost got the softest landing the law allows, a plea, not a life sentence, not first-degree murder in front of a jury having to look at what she did to Shawna's face, a plea. All because the true victim didn't want to put her children through any more trauma. I'm sorry, but a woman who breaks every bone in your face and murders your husband in cold blood should be looking at life, not a negotiation. So no, I'm not guarded for no reason. I'm guarded because Frances Zaayer was somebody's old friend. She had a key. She had a guest room. She had trust. And she turned all of it into a weapon. Protect your peace, protect your property line, and protect your perception of who is actually dangerous, because this country will hand you a naked woman with a gun and a neck brace and still ask black people to stop making everything about race. Now, if this story moved something in you, do me a favor, like it, share it with someone, and drop me a comment. Tell me straight up, if Frances had been a black woman from the hood, do you honestly believe she walks out of that courtroom with the plea deal? Or do we already know the answer? Because I already know, but I want to hear you say it. I love y'all and I mean it, okay? So don't forget to hit that notification bell so you know every single time your girl uploads, and I will catch y'all in the next video. Peace.